Yes, Jah, Rastafari, give thanks and praise to the Most High, give thanks for life. Again, we're in the conscious house with Tony Barber, well-known barbershop around the world. And if you're in London, North London, Tottenham, please visit Tony Barber Shop. Conscious Source. So inside the house, we have our bigger brother, John.
Respect.
What's the man?
Wonderful.
Yeah, man, give that. And John, my reason earlier on today, making us say we're depth on the runnings and advise him of coming on the busy schedule to promote his book and promote himself because we must be about promoting each other and bring it to another level and so forth, and thing. So, John, what I want to do, I want to go straight to the chase because we only have 20 minutes in our battery,
Right.
you know. So, I want to mention a little bit about the book and why make you write this book here. Mm-hmm.
There are many reasons why I decided to write this book. Many, many reasons. One of them was that I was tired and annoyed with the killing of black youths of African heritage from the Caribbean and Africa in their prime age, in their teens, in one of the most important time of their life, when they should be preparing for life instead of taking life. So that was one of my...
Just read out the frustration.
Yes, so that was one of it. Another one was that I used to work in a cultural bookstore called Marifa Books in Dalston. And a young lady came there and she said, is there any books for young people in love? And I couldn't find one. I knew there was some express titles by Dotun Adebayo. There was some express titles.
Express books.
Yes,
Express
but
books,
they were for younger than teens. And then we had other books such as I think it's Omar Tyree and other people. Those were for older women. And so I decided that I needed to write a book that had a love story within it that could cater for teenagers as well. So that's two. The other is that our young people are not being presented in a balanced way in the media by European media and by African heritage media. The European media by and large don't have any interest in portraying our young people in a positive way because they do not want our young people to have confidence in themselves.
True. Very true.
They don't want our young people to be adequately and positively represented because if they're adequately and positively represented, what will essentially happen is that they will recognize that they can do all the other positive things that other people are doing out there, and it means that the balance of power will change very quickly.
Yeah.
Our young people do not disaffect in entrepreneurship, in education in schools, in education in university and so forth because they're lazy. They do not disaffect because they don't have the ability or the capacity. They disaffect because they're not being nurtured fairly by the system. They're not being nurtured adequately by the parents. They're not being nurtured adequately by the community. And they're not being nurtured adequately by our African countries and our Caribbean countries, because our African countries and our Caribbean countries, and in fact all of us, are still suffering from the after effects of colonialism and slavery. Many of our people always say, "Oh, slavery so long ago. Why do you mention that? That gone. Was you born then? Was you around then? What are you talking about that for? Leave it alone. You have a chip on your shoulder." And indeed, I have a boulder, not a chip on my shoulder. And not just I, we have boulders, not chips on our shoulders. These are not boulders that we've placed there ourselves. These are boulders that have been placed there not even circumstantially, but intentionally.
Well said.
By a number of people for a number of gains on their behalf, namely Europeans, namely Arabs. And so what happened, our young people do not have enough clarity, and they do not have enough understanding of the environment that they are living in, that we are living in. As a result of that, they create their own personalities, which is outside of how they should be as African young people of African heritage. And as a result of that, the behaviors that we see of them is not reflective of who we are, it's not reflective of who they truly are. So what happens is that the media gives them their personality, the white media and the black media. The black media, by and large, doesn't know better because they are also colonized, like most of our prime ministers, like most of our presidents. And as a result of that, the young suffer the most for the ignorance of the adults, those who are in the position to lead, but those who are not leading with the mind of Africa, Africanness, and reclamation of our spirit and healing in mind. So I decided that I needed to write a book that would help our young people, would go direct to our young people, to help our young people to be able to look in the mirror and feel comfortable with themselves, to feel confident with themselves, and to not feel hatred towards themselves. I was on the bus just coming down, and I came off one bus to take another bus. And there was a young boy of African heritage with some others. And he was quite funny, actually. I don't think he was more than 12, 13 max. And then he saw another friend came off the bus, and he was joking with her. And she was dark-skinned, he was dark-skinned. And he was bantering with her and says, "I'm lighter than you." And I laughed within my mind, and there was a smile on my face because I knew what this was all about, because I've written about this. And I said to myself, how can a young man who is dark be saying to another young lady who is dark that I am lighter than you? So that told me that the illness of colonialism, the illness of shadism, the illness of not wanting to celebrate Africanness and the beauty of Africanness still has not been absorbed within our spirits and in our mind and in our psyche in the 21st century. And I've mentioned things like this in the book, but it was actually quite amazing just to see it being acted out in front of me. It was actually quite entertaining, as negative as it was. Now, he was not cursing her, now he was not disrespecting anyone, but he was expressing a level of ignorance based upon his parents not teaching him adequately, the community not teaching him adequately, the system depriving him of true understanding, knowledge and respect of his beauty externally and internally, which causes him to express himself in such a way. So the other thing was that to bring semblance of empowerment within our young people, to let them look at them as being Africans and those of African heritage without feeling shame, without feeling offense, without expressing offense to other people who have African features. Another thing that was said at the bus stop, the young man said he was talking about another girl or something, and he said, "She's got thick lips." And I said to myself, the thing that people are paying money for to have, the things that people are pumping all kind of things in their lips to have, the things that people are pumping into their bottom to have, we are running away from that beautiful thing. So the parents have not taught, our community has not taught, the system has not allowed our children to look into the mirror and be happy with what they see, and so we end up in an ignorance of see.
Right. Well said, my brother. Well said. Yeah, I'm just reflecting what you're saying there. And, you know, there's so much realism coming from there. Like I said, when the youth there asked out just a minute ago, there, it's like a little drama. You fucking the pen and paper, you can have a little sketch in it.
The sketch is in my mind.
The sketch in the mind, you know what I mean? And, you know, get through that. But that's interesting, you know. Come back to the book. When would the book will be looking to be out?
I like your question. Doughie, you're a man that goes straight to the point. You cut to the chase, and I like that. But I'm going to go something before I get to that question. This book has been a wonderful journey. This book has been a 7-year and 2 months journey so far. My first interview was in May 2013 with Brother Anu on Galaxy Radio. And I had that interview and I projected that the book would have been ready for August. And he said September of that same year. later.
2 years.
And 2 months later. And so what happened? I learned from that. And what I learned from that is that the dynamics of writing is not an easy one.
Yeah.
Because you're carving words, you're carving realities, you're carving spirits, you're carving a painting in your mind. And a masterpiece cannot be rushed.
Yeah, truly.
And so I would actually say that it has been a character building experience because each time people see me, they kept saying to me, when's the book coming, when's the book coming, when's the book coming? And for me to have been able to withstand all of that pressure, 2 years and 2 months later, it means that there is something there.
Yeah.
There's something there. Now, I anticipate that this book, I'm on the absolute final stages now. I anticipate that this book will be out the latest 1st of January, the absolute latest, 1st of January 2016. But it is likely to be earlier. And so that is what I'll say. I'm very anxious.
You're on camera now, you know. You heard the man said, the 1st of January, you know, Rasta. I'm going to know joke business now, you know. You know, the words have to be your bond. You talk to people, not talk to me, you know, great trade. You know that. You talk to people around the world, you know, Rasta. You know, people say, where are the money I talk about? Hey, where the book there? Where the book there? You know what I mean? See?
I am as anxious as everyone to get this book out. Because this book has been...
Something I try to get right though, try to...
Yeah, this book has been a 7-year inception and conception. And I've carried it with me for that time. I'll also add something that I did not... At first I was giving people, whenever I was speaking to people, because what I've done from the beginning, one of the things that I believe is going to make this book so successful is that all along the way, I've continuously read it to people and got feedback in order to gauge it, because there are some new concepts that I'm bringing in and there's some new genres. When you see the book, you'll see on the back the new genres that I'm bringing in. Sometimes when people ask me, is it fiction or non-fiction, I find it hard to answer, and sometimes they wonder if I know what I'm writing. But the thing is, people have to realize about myself and about some artists is that we don't always follow the trends that has been set before. And we don't always fit into the square pegs that have been created before. So sometimes you have to see with artists and understand that they do works not just to imitate or to imitate. They do works that comes from their spirit, and things that comes from our spirit comes from each individual in a unique way. So because I'm not able to say whether or not it's fiction or non-fiction or whatever, as soon as you ask me that question, it doesn't mean that I do not understand what I've written. It means that I have to allow my spirit to unfold what has come, and then I can tag it. But I don't want to tag it until I've bagged it.
Till you bagged it, yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm anxious like everyone else, because I anticipate that it will have a very wonderful and make a wonderful contribution to literature of African heritage, from those of us born in the continent of Africa, our wonderful continent, to those of us born outside of the continent of Africa, our wonderful people. So I'm as anxious as everyone, and I would publicly apologize to you all for keeping you waiting for over 2.5 years. I would say for over 2.5 years, since May 2013, for this book. And I will say to you,
give them the title of the book, man.
I'm coming. I will say to you in a very humble and modest way that you will not be disappointed with my submission.
Okay.
The title of the book is firstly abbreviated YGFM, and I've abbreviated it in a slang context because that's how young people speak, in slang. The book is by and large written in slang. So the abbreviation is YGFM. The full title is Young Generals, Forward Mistresses, the Hieroglyphics of Modern Day Literature. The Hieroglyphics of Modern Day Literature is the tagline. It is what they call a hyperbole, which emphasizes the main title. So the Hieroglyphics of Modern Day Literature basically represents that hieroglyphics is one of our ancient writing systems. It is not the first. It's one of our ancient writing systems. And I'm not going to say any more on that. So basically what I'm saying is that the way I've written the book in slang, today's slang is basically a reflection of using an old system in a new way. And the slang that I've used is by and large a mixture of Jamaican communications, African American communications, and some British communications. So that is the three main elements that I've used within it. And obviously, as we all know, all of those communications comes from Africa because Africans were the first and Africans had the first language and the first languages. Sometimes people have tried to throw a negative twist on African languages, saying that Africa has so many languages, so how can it unite? It is nonsense. Africa has many languages, and the reason why it shows the beauty and the magnificent diversity of creativity and the dynamism of culture of mankind. So never ever say that Africa cannot be united because we have too many language and such nonsense. We must say that. Look at the beautiful diversification of the communication of humanity. Because you would not say Africa has too many animals. You would not say a country has too many flowers. Why would you say Africa has too many languages? Such nonsense. Africa has some magnificent dynamisms of language. Yoruba Tree, Ewe, Fanti, Igbo, Hausa, Kiswahili. Such beautiful languages. So never use that term and let someone use a negative onto you.
Okay then. Well, kindly, this lead on to, we've got about 3 minutes left. Time's got so quick. You don't quite need to. Is that a question though? Because I'm making an assumption you've been to Africa.
Many times.
And how did you find Africa for the very first time you went there? What was the feeling?
Wonderful question. The first African country I went to was Gambia. That was 1996, if my memory serves me right, between 94 and 96. I went with a Rasta brethren of mine. His name is Rambala, Nigel. Had a sound system called Afghan. And I was sitting at his house reasoning, and we looked in the Voice newspaper and we saw a great homecoming, and we decided to go.
Okay.
Went and we spent 2 weeks. It was very wonderful. When I went on the beach, both of us went on the beach. I think he went on a rock and stooped, and I went on the sand and stooped, and immediately we didn't even communicate with each other. We just stooped and we were looking out into the water. And then after we stopped doing that for a few moments and we reasoned, we realized what we were doing. Our spirit was reconnecting and observing the journey of us leaving those shores.
Say that again.
Our spirit was reconnecting and observing or reenacting the journey of us leaving those shores. Because we were just there looking out at the water. We were not saying a word to each other. We were not saying a word to each other. We were just looking out at the water. And when we were finished, we communicated with each other, and we came to an understanding that was what we were doing.
Okay. We've still got about 30 seconds left. So what I want to do is get you just to give it. Cause we have to do this again now. Cause it's just alive. It's alive. Give it your email address, and then we're gonna have you back here again, man. We're not done yet.
Thank you very much.
Go on.
I have a website. The website is not yet ready. The website will be ready, all being well, within about 2 weeks' time, hopefully by the end of the month. I have listened to something that Les Brown says. Les Brown is my favorite motivational speaker. Les Brown says that you must start before you are ready. And what he basically means by that is that if you try to get everything in perfect order before you move, you will never move. So I've decided that I would put the website on the latest flyers that I've done. At the moment, I'm only giving the flyers out to individuals so that I can express to them that the website is not yet ready. But the website will be www.ygfmthebooks.com. Thebooks.com. And the reason why I say the books, I'm doing 2 volumes of the books, or 2 versions. I'm doing one year 5 and year 6, and one from 7 to heaven. And the reason why I'm doing the 2 is because the book is about helping to bridge a generation gap between our young people and the adults. And so one will be for the young, and one will be for the year 7 secondary to adults. My email currently is ygfmjang, Jang, @outlook.com. And again, soon I'll have a email that relates directly to the website so that I can have clarity.
Okay. Yeah, just about. Yeah, that was good, John. Good. Good.